Hey, this is Michelle. It's just me with some very important news. There has been a report in the iPaper that they believe the government are sticking Gender Recognition Act reform in the bin. Obviously, considering what has been happening lately with COVID-19, some may be thinking this isn't a huge deal right now, and they are right. And some of you, like me, have been following this for years, with the hope that this would signal the start of a new trans-inclusive era in the United Kingdom, and they are incredibly disappointed, and they are also right. It remains to be seen whether this is part of a larger government policy to suspend or cancel large parts of their policy agenda, or whether they, like they just did with the Windrush report, they used the crisis to sneak it out when they thought nobody was looking. But whatever the case, I want to talk about 100 years ago, and to maybe wrestle away the wartime analogies from the conservative right. The suffragette movements in the US and the UK had very, very different responses to World War I. In America, they chose to picket the White House during wartime, a very brave thing to do. And this act was met with accusations of being anti-American traitors, as anything other than full-throated support of the president during wartime was seen as treasonous. Thank God they've evolved away from that, right? And it may be tempting to act, but we aren't in World War I era America, thousands of miles away from the war front. The war is here, and any action, direct or otherwise, would be incredibly dangerous. And right now, any organising online or anywhere else, it's just not going to help, simply because the government is focused on COVID-19. There aren't going to be any debates in Parliament, nobody will be around to listen, and any disruption, as questionable as some of the government's coronavirus policies have been, any action at this time could be dangerous to others in ways that you cannot predict. If this was anything other than a global pandemic, believe me, I'll be right there, placard in one hand, dictaphone in the other, making the case that Gender Recognition Act reform needs to happen, even just as a symbolic moment for the UK trans community. But I think we should think of the British suffragettes. They chose not to protest during the war because the war was so much closer, and the results of the devastation were so much more apparent. They decided to help. They decided to go and be seen helping. They decided to go and prove their humanity at a time when society saw them as a bunch of baby-making tubes and skirts. The UK suffragettes suspended action, but turned their focus to helping the war effort, and people saw them do that, and it sympathised them to their cause. Trans people make up a significant percentage of the workforce of the people who are going to help fix this pandemic. They're doctors and nurses and cleaners and delivery people, bus drivers, factory workers. People will notice their fight to help their country, and one day the government will have to recognise that. Now, I'll be the first to admit that this is not a perfect analogy. The original suffragettes had a history of incredible racism and a specific brand of white feminism that is still very much around today. And World War I was a man-made disaster that never ever needed to happen. But I want to say that our response to this should be to take the hit, and then do what we can to get through this period and try to help others. To show our humanity, to make trans people, non-binary people, intersex people, and all the other people in our community known and respected, not as vague concepts twisted into monsters by journalists who left their moral reasoning in their Oxford or Cambridge student halls, but as the people who we are, who care about the people around us, not just because we hope they're going to grant us our rights, but because we all have this need inside of us to help others. It's there. Go with that feeling any way you can safely. And once we get through this crisis, and it is safe to do so, we'll start the fight again, because progress in minority rights isn't always inevitable, but it is always possible. And the more people see us helping at a time like this, the harder it will be for them to deny us. Anyway, I've waited on long enough. If you were feeling alone, isolated, disheartened, we have a place where you can go. We have a Discord server that is right now chock full of every kind of gender variant person you can imagine, and our mods are standing by to assist you any way they can. I will be there very shortly. We cannot offer crisis support, but we can point you towards where you can get it. On our server, you can find some people to play a video game with, find some people to talk to about this very thing, or just share some pictures of bunnies. There is an application process to get on the server, and we are on hand to rush through applications and the vetting process to get you on there as fast as possible. And I want to thank my flatmate for helping me put this together. Thank you, flatmate, if you happen to be listening. Our next episode will be out next Friday. Till then, look after yourselves, wash those mitts, and think of ways you could make someone else feel better. I'll see you soon.